Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Influencer A-List, a weekend driven by music, rhythm and instruments. Today, we have on our show Nikhil Paralikhar, a tabla artist who is popularly known as the Tabla Guy. Rasika Shekhar, a flautist. Her distinctive sound as a vocalist and flautist has led her to collaborate with some of the biggest names in the industry. And last but not the least, we have Mahesh Raghavan, a musician who creates Carnatic music on his iPad. Let's listen in.
Known for his divine tabla beats,
Tabla is such an instrument and such a subject which is absolutely vast.
Yeah.
You just cannot learn this much and expect this much out of it.
and an effortless blend of skill and rhythm.
Our Indian music is more given respect to outside the country and not in India.
NewsX influencer A-List proudly recognizes Nikhil Paralikhar for influence in music.
Hello and welcome. You're joining us on NewsX Influencer A-List. With us today on the show is Nikhil Paralikhar. Nikhil now is known as the Tabla Guy on the internet. He has more than 128,000 followers on Instagram, and he is redefining what digital content creation means, especially when it comes to Indian classical music. Firstly, Nikhil, thank you so much for being with us on NewsX Influencer A-List. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
All right. So, Nikhil, I actually want to start by asking you, what is it like to be a content creator for the digital space? Because very interestingly, I was reading that, you were the digital ambassador for Bahubali. Now,
Sure.
a production of that size, being a digital media ambassador for them, what is that like? Tell us what exactly was your role in this entire process?
So my role in this project was to make an official tabla version of the Sahore Bahubali track, the Telugu version of the track. So doing this was very, very, very difficult. Yet I had a lot of thrill and joy covering this track. And being an influencer or being the digital content creator side when it comes to the Sahore Bahubali track was to tell people how this track can sound with tabla. As you know, once you listen to the Sahore Bahubali track, it's a beautiful track. So to collaborate with it using my tabla was a very beautiful feeling. It felt very amazing.
That you finished this entire recording in one sitting. What was that
Yes,
like?
I did.
About that.
Yes, sure. So as I told you, I was at the studio to cover this track, and I just thought of my guru and my parents before starting, and I closed my eyes for 5 minutes. I heard the track in those 5 minutes, and then I was like, let's just do it. So I started and finished the track in one take. I did not stop till I finished the entire track.
So then this begs the question, Nikhil, how old were you when you started playing the tabla? And, I want to ask you this. When we think about Indian classical music, right, at least from where
Sure.
we see it, there's a vacuum. There's a certain vacuum that exists that needs to be filled, right?
Sure.
When you started playing the tabla, vis-a-vis, let's say, drums that people our age would rather connect to, what was it like for you?
So as I told you, I started learning tabla at the age of 5, and all thanks to my mother, my father, and my guru, who encouraged me and pushed me towards playing the tabla, because somewhere down the line they knew that I would probably do good at it.
Yeah.
So it's because of their blessings that I am doing what I'm doing today. And I was advised by a lot of people to take up the drums, or say the octapad or the congo or bongo or whatever, the Western instruments. I was advised, but I did not go for it. As my classical training started, I started to develop this interest towards tabla because of its technicality, or because of the sort of interesting compositions that we have. So that built in my interest even more towards tabla, and I did not leave it after that.
So what do you do for, I mean, if I may ask you this, and are you a
Sure.
full-time digital media content creator? Is that something that you're making money from, or are there gigs on the side that you look at? How does this work?
So before the pandemic, gigs was the thing that I used to earn money from. And of course, during that time, the digital, the brand deals also used to come in. But now in this field, it's all about the brand deals these days. I personally do not enjoy doing the live shows on any Zoom call or whatever, because the feeling of having around, say 500 to 1,000 people live in front of you is absolutely different as what we would have on Zoom or any other platform.
Right.
So yeah, that used to be my major source of earning, and now it is the brand deals through the digital media.
So when you say brand deals,
Yeah.
you mean you represent the brand, you're an ambassador for them, or you feature them on your page? How does this work?
Yes, exactly. Basically, if we are collaborating with a brand, I either have to cover one of their tracks and I have to put it as a post or a story on my Instagram or on YouTube.
How easy or difficult is it to make that switch from playing a tabla to other instruments, let's say?
So as I mentioned earlier, your foundation of classical training, if it is solid, then it is very easy for you to basically jam with any genre of music. What I play today is nothing but the classical notes with the track.
Yeah.
Say if I'm playing an EDM track is being played on the background, okay, and on the tabla I would play the 16 beats, which is the teen tal, or I would play dadra, which is the 6 beats, or I would play rupak, which is 7 beats. So that's how I can relate with the track. It's very easy. Once your foundation is strong, it's very easy to relate.
Language is
language is the same. Automatically, it comes to your mind that, it's 16 beats or just 4 beats or 6 or 7 or whatever.
So what do you think then? And, before we wrap this up, because we're also running out of time.
Sure.
What do you think the Indian classical music community in India needs, And I'm not just talking in terms of the digital space, but I'm also talking in terms of the offline space, Is it recognition? Is it the fact that more people need to value the art? Is it presence on a global level? What do you think we need right now, Nikhil?
So it's the second point that you mentioned, people need to recognize it more. They need to recognize or understand the importance of classical music. What happens is, what I have seen is our Indian music is more given respect to outside the country and not in India. So this is something that we Indians, we people have to understand, that we are the only people who can take this forward.
Yeah.
By any means, but this is how we can do it, and we should do it. It's our moral responsibility. And tabla is such an instrument and such a subject which is absolutely vast.
Yeah.
You just cannot learn this much and expect this much out of it. You have to do that rigorous training. You have to be classically trained, and only then you can think of doing whatever you want.
And it's very intrinsic to our culture and our identity, right? To kind of
Absolutely
take it forward, because everything, when you think about it, in classical music, dance, they all synchronize together so well. And
absolutely,
the is so beautiful, to say the least.
Absolutely. Could you have imagined Alan Walker's favorite song? In that, Teen Tal goes so well. Nadin dinna, nadin dinna, nadin dinna, nadin dinna goes so well with the faded track. It is beautiful. You just cannot even imagine. But this is how it is. It's absolutely. I'm telling you. It's once I start talking about this, there's a lot that I can tell you, and this interview will not end. It's
so we're
it's
going
such
to
a
have
vast
a
subject.
conversation, definitely, and
Yes.
I'm going to try and understand from you what it takes, to be to kind of get all these energies together. But unfortunately, we run out of time for this interview. Nikhil,
Sure.
thank you so much for being with us on NewsX Influencer A-List, and it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. Means a lot.
A flautist, singer, and composer,
Indian classical music, the classical music systems that we have in India is so in depth and so magical and just so much in it that.
Known for her music entwined with Indian culture.
I've started teaching a little bit, started giving access to people to that information so that they can start building a little more interest in the instrument or voice or anything that they're, looking into.
NewsX influencer A-list proudly recognizes Rasika Mahesh for influence in music.
Hello and welcome. You're joining us on NewsX Influencer A-list. I'm Paradip Bhanot, and with us today is a musician who is taking Indian art forms to the global audience, to the global stage. We have a flute artist with us. Rasika Mahesh is on the broadcast. Rasika, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to NewsX.
Hi, Verdi. Thank you so much for having me here. Such a pleasure.
All right, so you play the flute, Rasika. Tell us, a little bit about the work that you've done, the songs that you've kind of given the background score for.
Yeah, so very quickly, my flute journey started when I was 13. I started learning Carnatic classical music, and then came down to India to study Hindustani music, classical music. I was born in Dubai, grew up in the US, so music brought me to India, and I have been sort of exploring a lot more genres when I've been, living here. And I've been lucky to work with some Bollywood films, working on a couple of background scores. I have also sung for a couple of movies as a playback singer, and it's been extremely exciting, and I'm very fortunate that I've been able to do so.
Which was the song that you liked doing the most, the one that has stayed with you?
I would say the second song that I did, it's called Hullare. It's from a movie called Two States. And I love doing that song because it's a very, very upbeat, fun song. And I got to do it with Shankarji and Siddharth Mahadevan. So that was super fun. I also got to sing the part that was in Tamil, which is my mother tongue. So it was just, everything just was a brilliant experience with it.
And not only giving background scores, but you also have a massive following when it comes to social media, right? On Instagram, etc. You have so many followers that are looking up to you. These are people that want to know more about you and your life and your journey as a flute artist. What is it like, to have that kind of responsibility in the digital space?
Yeah, I think I'm very fortunate to have that because we're able to meet people that, we're able to interact with people that are from so many different parts of the world, so many different parts of the country. And technology enables us to do that, which maybe, before I probably never expected or anticipated to be able to. And I think that comes with a certain responsibility. At least I like to see it that way because it pushes me to be able to learn more and make sure that I'm putting out quality work. And I love that part. At the same time, because I'm connecting with a very different audience, I feel like it pushes my musical boundaries and ideas as well. So it's a really nice give and take kind of a scenario. So it's very encouraging. And I'm just love it.
So what do you consider as, your main responsibility when you say that you feel responsible for the people that are looking up to you? Is it, promoting Indian classical music? What is it that you see as your main responsibility?
I'd say at the fundamental, I would say that for me, my main, I think the way I operate is to put out the most honest music. That's my first thing. If I look at something that's promoting it, that's a very different thing. If the promotion happens as a side effect of what I do, that's great. But when I'm putting out music, I make sure that it's the most honest music that I put out. Secondly, I'm always making sure that I'm continuously learning and evolving as a musician, so that I can create something different every time. I can create something that's of top quality to the best of my ability. And at the same time, I'm able to interact and collaborate with different musicians so that we can bring people something new, something fresh. And to top it all off, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if I can bring a smile to someone's face through my music, I consider myself really blessed.
So what is it like? You've worked with Bollywood films, you've given background scores for those. You're out there on the internet, you put out videos. What do you enjoy doing more and why?
I think hands down, I enjoy being on stage the most and performing live. Nothing like it. It's so exciting because you get to interact with people in person and you get to feed off that energy. And, it's like it's like a really, really exciting little 1.5 hours that we get to perform. That would be by far my favorite thing to do.
And what is the one performance that has, stuck with you, where the audience was just mesmerized by your music and you just could not believe that this was happening?
So it's so many, because they're very, very unique experiences by itself. But there was one I did in Tunisia about 3-4 years back, and I was playing to an audience that hadn't listened to, heard Indian music before. Is what I was told. So it was very challenging and intimidating before I got on stage. Yeah. But when I was on stage and I sort of like let go and just connected with the music, there was a feeling of connecting with a very, very new audience that I didn't know at all. And that was only possible because of the music, where, language isn't a barrier. Music doesn't have a language, as we know. So because of that, there was a very, very special connection with this new Tunisian audience. And that's something that I hold very precious in my memories of performances.
And do you think that, that connection is also important when it comes to, in a certain sense, connecting with the younger audience and taking forward Indian classical music on the whole? Because like you said, music has no language. It's just so beautiful. And India has so much to offer, especially when it comes to art forms, be it music, be it dance, be it culture, be it art. Do you think it's more important to give Indian classical music a platform on the world stage, and how have you been doing that?
Absolutely. I think Indian classical music, the classical music systems that we have in India is so in depth and so magical, and just so much in it that I think because I've learned classical music, I'm able to grasp a lot of the other genres of music. And that's something I don't take for granted. I still continue to practice classical music and perform classical music. And if we can bring it out even more to the global audience, that would be phenomenal. How I've been doing that, so every time I'm interacting with a musician that's not from here, every time we sort of exchange ideas, I make sure to communicate where my roots are from. That's one part of how you connect with another musician. But at the same time, musically speaking, my language of how I see things or listen to things is through classical music, is through the filter of classical music. So I'm able to sort of connect in that way. As far as performances, I've been trying to balance different types of performances. I have my contemporary music that I do. I have my Bollywood. I also have classical music that I do, just strictly classical concerts. Mm-hmm. So by doing this, I feel like I get an opportunity to do all this, and regardless of where the audience is, at least I'm equipped to be able to spread this classical music.
With digital media, you can also reach out to a much younger audience, because if you see the people that are on social media, they're much younger. So are you considering using that medium, that platform that you have, to help people?
Absolutely. It's surprising because like we spoke about, sometimes we feel like classical music doesn't have that much reach, and people aren't listening to it. But I'll tell you something very surprising is that a lot of the messages that I get on social media is in response to the classical pieces that I put out. So a few weeks or months back, I put a little classical clip of something that I'd done at a classical festival, and I got so much love for it, and it was very surprising. So one way to sort of encourage people, and especially youngsters, to do that is that I've started teaching a little bit, started giving access to people to that information, so that they can start building a little more interest in the instrument or voice or anything that they're looking into. So through that, I feel like it's a little bit of a nice access for youngsters to start learning and start, digging deep into classical music.
Absolutely. And more power to you, Rasika, for doing that. More power to you for, reaching out to the audience and giving them a sneak peek into what it's like to be such a successful artist. Kudos to you. And thank you so much for joining us on Influence. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Priti. Thank you so much for having us.
Making groovy classical fusion music.
This is my musical instrument. It's an iPad. And I play an application called GeoShred. G spelled GeoShred, and it looks like this.
He is known for his iPad experiments.
If you're a parent take your kids to a classical concert, learn how to appreciate it, teach them how to appreciate it.
NewsX influencer A-list proudly recognizes Mahesh Raghavan for influence in music.
Hello and welcome. You're joining us on NewsX Influencer A-List. I'm Paradeep Bhanot, and joining us on the broadcast is Mahesh Raghavan. Now, Mahesh makes music, but he does not make music in a way that you and I generally understand. He makes music on an iPad using a very special application with which he's able to make and produce notes as and how he wants to. Mahesh, firstly, thank you so much for joining us on Influencer A-List, and welcome to NewsX.
Thank you so much for having me here, sir.
All right, Mahesh. So I've just explained to our audience that you make music on an iPad. Now, that for a lot of us is very fascinating because we think of music and we think instruments, right?
Yeah.
Can you show us what you do and how you do it?
Of course. So basically, this is my musical instrument. It's just an iPad. And I play an application called GeoShred, G spelled GEOSHRED, and it looks like this. So before I stumped upon this, I was actually playing the piano, and I was also learning Indian classical music. So on the piano, the notes are all white and black keys. There's no way to kind of slide from one note to another. And I discovered this app. So the way this works is all of those blue colored and orange colored buttons are actually notes. So if I click on them, they're actually musical notes. And since it's an iPad and it's a touch screen, I'm able to slide. And as I was saying, this ability to slide from one note to another helps me play Indian music. So in Indian music, we have a concept called the gamak or the gamaka, which allows us to slide between notes. So just to give you a little demo. So that's what I do.
That's beautiful. And so you were just telling me that this application is a confluence of the guitar as well as the piano. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
there are 6 strings there are 6 rows of notes, and they are simulate like an electric guitar sound, and the whole way the notes are arranged is like a keyboard. So it's like a jugalbandi of piano. And
so how did you stumble upon this? Very interesting, because not a lot of artists are using devices to sort of make Indian music, especially because EDM etc. we have, which are all on devices, but not a lot of Indian music is made on devices. How did you stumble upon this?
So I stumbled upon this when I was doing my master's degree in music technology. So as I was going, I was researching a topic called controllerism, where you can use electronics and devices to do what you want. And I was looking up apps that enable people to play music on the iPad. And I stumbled upon an app back then called GeoSynth, which was developed by a keyboardist named Jordan Rudess, who plays for the band Dream Theater. And that was designed exactly like this, and that evolved into the app that I play today. So this was all, I just stumbled upon this, and then I was really intrigued, and then started practicing every day, developing a technique, and it's been a very enjoyable journey.
And so are you also telling me, that you are part of 2 bands, of course, but you also put out a lot of content on the internet. How has the internet, sort of helped you build the community? Because, or get in touch with the Indian classical community in general? Because with the pandemic, of course, a lot has changed when it comes to performing arts, right? A lot of it is now virtual. Has the internet helped you, in any way?
The internet has actually been a game changer for me, because I used to live in Dubai, and everyone who I have been working with is either from India or they stay in the US, or it's all been like a virtual collaboration for me since the start. So I have been collaborating with musicians online, sending tracks here and there back and forth much before the pandemic, and it's been working out great. So the internet was a way for me to kind of upload my ideas. And soon a lot of people started liking my ideas, and then started developing more ideas and uploading them. And one thing kind of led to another. And 3 years back, I moved to India to pursue music full time. And ever since then, I've been playing the iPad on stage.
And what has the journey been like in terms of getting so many followers on social media? Because I'm sure when you started out, it didn't happen overnight, right? Or of course took time. So what was that like? What was that sort of journey like? Because you weren't just paving one journey, but you were sort of paving two. One was, of course, as a musician, and the other was your own social media journey. So was that ever overwhelming? What was that like?
It was really overwhelming when some of the videos went viral, actually.
Yeah.
So I started off uploading my ideas were predominantly in the Indian classical fusion genre. So one day I decided, so basically one of my friends, Rohit, had suggested that maybe why not do a cover, but do it your own way. So I took a song of Adele's named Hello, and I kind of did a very, very Indian version of it, where it's presented in a proper Indian classical way, but I used the iPad. And that video kind of became viral. And then I did Game of Thrones, and just one thing just led to another. It was a little overwhelming at first, but then it also helped reach the classical music that I make out there. So it feels great, actually. It's just really, it's nice to know that people appreciate classical music in this way.
All right. So, then I want to ask you, Mahesh, and so what do you think then should we do, or how do you think we can use the internet to kind of give a push to Indian classical music, especially amongst the younger generation? You know, if let's say you were to do something for it, what would be the first thing that would come to your mind?
So I can give you an example that relates a lot to me. So around a couple of years ago, actually 3 years ago, I was part of a cover called, it was basically a Carnatic music version of the song Shape of You. And that kind of blew out on the internet, and I think it got like 3 million views in one day. And at that time, we had so many kids, come to us saying, okay, this is really cool. I also want to learn Indian music, and I want to be able to do something like this. And, that gave us, that was actually really nice to see, because that is one way where we thought, okay, it's kids actually find Indian music really cool. And if just presented in the nice way, a nice way, and if you take them to a classical concert, it's really important that kids understand what is happening and they are able to appreciate what is going on. And without that knowledge, it's not really helping. So when I would advise, if you're a parent, take your kids to a classical concert, learn how to appreciate it, teach them how to appreciate it, and make them aware of how beautiful our tradition and our music is. And that is definitely the way forward.
Absolutely. And, before we let you go, because we've run out of time, Mahesh, can I request you to just play a small snippet maybe of a song that you've done?
Okay, cool. So I can...
Which one are you going to play?
I can play Game of Thrones. Or, yeah, sure. Game of Thrones.
All right.
Okay.
Beautiful. That was so good. Thank you so much, Mahesh. We're actually very fascinated by how you're doing that on an iPad, but that of course is going to be that's going to be a whole different conversation, and we hope we can have it with you very soon. But for
Definitely.
now, thank you so much for joining us on Influencer A-List,
Thank
and
you so
power
much.
with you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.